She laughed, loud, shrill, ugly. The kind of laugh people use when they're not just mocking, they're enjoying it. That's not even a real project, my sister sneered. He's just a kid. He'll get over it. My 12-year-old son sat frozen, clutching the handmade model of a solar-powered car he'd built with his own 2 hands.
Glue still drying.
Wheels still a little loose. He'd brought it to dinner hoping to show his grandparents, hoping they'd be proud. But instead, he got humiliated by his own aunt. In front of everyone, laughter rippled. My brother snorted into his wine. My father smiled like it was a harmless joke. And my son, my sweet, brilliant boy, stood up. His voice didn't shake. His eyes didn't water. He just said one thing. I'll never forget this. The table went dead silent. You could hear the knives resting on porcelain, the awkward cough from my mother, and my sister's eyes widened like she suddenly remembered he wasn't just a kid. He was my kid. My name is Danielle, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever watched your child break in real time and realized that the ones who shattered him shared your blood? I wrapped my arm around his shoulder, took his car model gently from the table, and we walked out without another word. No drama. No yelling. Just silence that echoed louder than any scream. That night, I tucked him into bed. He didn't cry, didn't speak. He just stared at the ceiling, whispering, I worked so hard. And I knew this wasn't about a science project. This was about respect,
Dignity.
family, and how mine had none. I made one decision before the sun rose. They would feel this. Not just my sister. All of them. Because if they thought this was going to be forgotten like another dinner party faux pas, they didn't know what I was capable of. The next morning, the first domino fell. And by the time the last one dropped, my parents' perfect little world crumbled like ash in the wind. By morning, I was already logged into the system. The family trust, the estate allocations, the business accounts they forgot I managed behind the scenes because I never asked for praise, just kept the wheels turning. Until now. Within 2 hours, I froze 3 joint accounts. Another hour later, I revoked shared access to the beach house deed they all used but never paid for. By noon, I'd filed a motion to dissolve the sibling business LLC that ran under my credentials. See, while they laughed at my son for being a kid with dreams, they forgot his mother was the architect of the life they were standing on. And I was done holding it up. At 2:34 p.m., my sister texted, Hey, what's going on with the company account? My card just declined at Saks. I didn't respond. At 2:57 p.m., my father called. Straight to voicemail. By 3:11 p.m., a group thread started. Dad. Danielle, please call me. Your sister's upset. Sister. You're being dramatic. I was joking. Mom, can we talk about this like adults? I put the phone down and walked into my son's room. He was tinkering with wires and batteries, trying to rebuild the car she'd broken. One wheel slightly melted from the fireplace's edge where she'd tossed it accidentally. You okay? I asked. He shrugged. It's just plastic. No, I said gently. It was your heart. He looked up at me. Why did she do it? I knelt beside him. Because she thought cruelty was clever. Because she's a coward who thinks mocking others makes her important. His eyes filled, but he didn't cry. I want to be someone different, he whispered. I smiled. You already are. The next day, I received an email from the board of my parents' foundation. We've been informed your name is being withdrawn as financial guarantor. Can you confirm? I confirmed. They'd never survive the audit that came next. Because if they wanted to treat my child like a joke, then they could live without the punchline I'd been covering all along. And still, this was only the beginning. By the third day, the phone didn't stop. Missed calls, voicemails laced with urgency and carefully concealed panic. I let every one of them rot in silence. Because the same people who laughed at my son's dreams were now watching their own unravel, and I wasn't lifting a single finger to stop it. At 9:12 a.m., my father emailed me directly. We need to talk. You're creating chaos over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? They watched my son shrink under a chandelier they all sat under, and not one of them stood up for him. That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was a message. And now I was sending mine. I scheduled an emergency board meeting for the foundation my parents ran. The same one I funded silently year after year. When they logged in, they saw me sitting at the head of the Zoom call, calm, unreadable, already surrounded by lawyers. Danielle, Mom started. This is a family matter, not a financial one. No, I said. This is exactly a financial matter. Because all of you made it one when you used my resources to build your reputations and turned around and mocked my son in return. Come on, my sister huffed. It was a joke. He's a kid. He doesn't even understand what happened. I leaned in toward the camera. He understood enough to say, I'll never forget this. Maybe you should have listened. I motioned to the lawyer beside me. As of this moment, I am removing the Patterson Family Trust from the foundation's donor base. Effective immediately. All future donations will be redirected to a scholarship fund in my son's name for kids who dare to dream even when no one claps. The screen exploded. Danielle, you're being cruel. This is a betrayal of family. You're blowing this out of proportion. I stayed silent until they ran out of breath. Then I spoke the truth they'd been dodging for decades. You loved my silence more than you ever loved me. But you made a mistake this time. You humiliated the one person I would burn the world for. The meeting ended. That night, my sister texted me. You've made your point. You've embarrassed us enough. Now what? I stared at the screen and smiled. Now you learn what it feels like to rebuild without me. Because I wasn't just done being your backbone. I was becoming the storm that made you beg for shelter. The fallout was delicious. The kind of quiet collapse they never imagined could come from me. The agreeable one. The responsible sister. The one they'd leaned on so long. They forgot she had bones of steel. That night, I took my son out to dinner. Just the two of us. His favorite place. No cameras. No grand speeches. Just love. Real, simple, safe. Halfway through his milkshake, he looked up and asked, Did I do something wrong that night? I set my fork down. My heart cracked, but my voice didn't. No, baby, I said. They did. He looked away. I didn't want to cry in front of them. I leaned in close. You didn't need to. You did something more powerful. What? You stood up. And I meant it. He didn't throw a tantrum. Didn't run away. He just said the one sentence that echoed through the entire house like a curse. I'll never forget this. He wasn't just speaking for himself. He was speaking for every child who'd ever been belittled by people who were supposed to protect them. And now? The protectors had become the exiled. By morning, my sister's boutique, built on a trust she never earned, was shuttered. I had revoked the silent partnership I'd held in her business. The one I never bragged about because family helped family, until family laughed at mine. Brandon, her husband, sent an email titled, Come on, Danielle. Don't punish everyone for one mistake. I forwarded it to my attorney with a single line. This is not punishment. It's accounting. My father tried to salvage what was left. Called in favors. Scheduled a neutral dinner to discuss things. I sent a message back. If you can sit through watching your grandson be mocked and do nothing, then you can sit through the consequences too. My mother, always the strategist, sent flowers. The card read, We all make mistakes. Please don't let this destroy everything. I returned them. No card. No message. Just silence, my new language. Because sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's boundaries made of titanium. And my son? He was finally smiling again. Because he knew. He knew his mom didn't just hear him. She moved mountains for him. And I wasn't finished. The newspapers picked it up first. Small column. Local business section. Family foundation faces major donor exit. Sources say internal rift caused collapse. They didn't name me. They didn't have to. My parents knew. My sister knew. Everyone in their world now knew. Their empire wasn't built on legacy. It was built on me. And I had quietly, precisely, walked away with every single brick I laid. I was making breakfast when my phone buzzed. A message from my father. I know we've been silent too long. We're ready to talk. Man to woman. Not father to daughter. Not, I'm sorry, just a power play cloaked in peace. I showed the text to Aaron, my husband. He didn't say anything, just raised an eyebrow and kept flipping pancakes. That was enough. Later that day, my lawyer confirmed the final paperwork had cleared. I was no longer tied to the family trust, the LLCs, or any shared property. Not legally, not financially, not spiritually.
Free.
That afternoon, I walked into my home office, walls lined with photos of my son, awards, newspaper clippings of charities I built with my own hands, and opened a folder I'd been building for weeks. The name on the cover? Project Orion, a scholarship fund dedicated to kids like mine. Kids with big dreams and small voices. Kids who deserve yes where they've always heard not yet. I funded it with the exact amount I pulled from my family foundation. To the dollar. Every cent they used to prop themselves up now belonged to children who deserved it. And my son? He'd be the first face on the website, holding the solar-powered car we rebuilt together. The same one they laughed at. The same one now featured in a science magazine for middle school innovators. When I showed him the site, his eyes lit up. "This is for me?" he asked. "For you," I said. "And every kid they ever ignored." He hugged me so tight, I could barely breathe. "You didn't just get revenge," he whispered. "You made it matter." And he was right. This wasn't just about teaching my family a lesson. This was about rewriting what family should mean. The invitations came a week later. Glossy envelopes. Gold embossed. Expensive as guilt. Join us for the Patterson Family Gala, a night of unity and giving. Unity? They were desperate. The annual gala was their pride, their pageant, their chance to show the world how generous they were, with money that never belonged to them. But this year, the guest list had holes. The venue had changed. The sponsors were pulling out, quietly, carefully, because I had always been the bridge they walked across to respectability. And now that bridge had burned. My mother called that night. Not to apologize. To perform. "Danielle," she began, "I know you've made your point. And we're trying to reflect." "Reflect," I said. "Or repair the PR damage?" She sighed. "Your sister didn't mean it. And your father, he's never been good with emotions. We're old, Danielle. We're trying to keep the family from falling apart." I smiled coldly. "It already has. I'm just choosing not to live in the rubble." A pause. "Then, will you come? To the gala?" I almost laughed. "You want me to walk into a room you built on the back of my silence and pretend we're whole?" "We just need your presence," she said softly, "to remind people we're still us." There it was. They didn't miss me. They missed the image of me. The reliable daughter. The silent donor. The spine of the lie. I hung up. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about it. Instead, I sent out invitations of my own. Not for a gala. For a launch. Orion Rising, a night for young inventors. Hosted the same evening. Same city. But my room was filled with real stories. Real kids. Real joy. No donors in tuxedos faking compassion. Just children holding up the dreams they built with bare hands. And right in the center, my son. Smiling. Radiant. Unbreakable. That night, while my family's world wilted under cheap chandeliers and forced applause, mine was blooming. And the best part? Every sponsor who skipped their gala showed up at mine. The headlines the next morning told two stories. Patterson Gala sees lowest turnout in decade. Orion Rising, the future of innovation starts here. Side by side. Legacy versus rebirth. Facade versus fire. Their names shrinking while mine expanded, rooted in something real this time. My phone buzzed nonstop. Journalists. Local influencers. Educators asking to partner. Even old friends I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly remembering my number. But the one call I answered came from a blocked ID. I knew it was her before I said a word. My sister's voice cracked like glass. You couldn't just let it go, could you? I said nothing. You had to humiliate us. You had to make a scene. I almost laughed. I didn't make a scene, Hannah. I made a statement. There's a difference. You destroyed everything. No, I replied, calm and steel. You did that when you humiliated my son and thought there wouldn't be consequences. She sniffed. He's just a kid. Don't, I snapped. Don't finish that sentence. Because that kid just inspired a room full of CEOs, educators, and philanthropists, while your gala was half empty and full of forced smiles. Silence. Then bitter and small. So what now? You're done with us forever? I thought about it. Really thought. Because I wasn't driven by vengeance anymore. I was driven by value. No, I said. I'm not done. I'm rebuilding. Rebuilding what? My lineage, I replied. And I'm starting by teaching my son that the world doesn't revolve around people who laugh at pain and call it humor. You're not the same, Danielle, she whispered. You used to care. I still care, I said. Just not about what breaks me. I hung up. That afternoon, I took my son out for ice cream. We walked past a bookstore where his face now sat proudly on the front window, a feature from a local magazine titled, The Boy Who Stood Up. He held my hand tighter. Is it okay to remember what she did? Yes, I said. Because remembering isn't the wound. It's the armor. He smiled up at me, chocolate on his lip, eyes wide with a kind of peace I hadn't seen in months. And in that moment I knew my family didn't crumble. I just stopped holding it up. 3 months later, they showed up at my doorstep. All of them. My father in a suit that hung looser than I remembered. My mother clutching her handbag like a shield. And Hannah, makeup free, eyes swollen, shoulders hunched, not like someone ashamed. Like someone finally humbled. I didn't speak. I just stepped outside and closed the door behind me. No cameras, I said. No neighbors. Say what you came to say. My father cleared his throat, but I cut him off with a look. This wasn't his moment. It was Hannah's. And she knew it. She stepped forward. I humiliated your son, she said softly, because I couldn't handle that he had something I never did, bravery. Her voice cracked. I thought being older meant I was better. I thought being louder made me right. But when he stood up and said, I'll never forget this, I realized I was the one who should never forget. She reached into her coat and pulled out a check. This isn't hush money, she said quickly. It's for Orion. For the fund. I talked to Brandon. We're selling the car. Downsizing. We want to do something real. I took the check. Not because I needed the money. Because I needed the moment. My mother stepped forward next, voice trembling. I'm sorry, Danielle. I see it now. The years we leaned on your strength like it was infinite. The way we dismissed your son, it wasn't just a joke. It was a betrayal. She reached for my hand. I didn't flinch, but I didn't hold it either. I don't hate you, I said. I just stopped making space for the version of you that hurt us. Dad finally spoke. We'd like to come to the next Orion event. If that's allowed. I stared at him. At the back, I said. You can sit at the back and listen. They all nodded. No protest. No excuses. Just acceptance.
And that was enough for now.
Later that night, my son stood on a school auditorium stage, holding a microphone in one hand and the rebuilt car in the other. Someone once told me, he said, that pain doesn't make you weak. But standing up in pain? That makes you unforgettable. The room rose to its feet. Applause thundered. And in the very back row, my family stood too, silent, reverent, finally small. Not because they were less, but because I had grown. And I wasn't shrinking again for anyone.